Guys, today we are going to continue with part 2 of Diary of a Wimpy Kid Ugly Truth. Wednesday. Okay, so the first few nights with mom have been a disaster. We tried making dinner on our own on Monday, but none of us knew what we were doing. Manny was in charge of making the iced tea, but it was undrinkable since he stirred it with his bare hands. Roderick was in charge of cooking the roast beef, but he forgot to take the plastic wrap off before putting it in the oven. So we scrapped the homemade meal idea and went out to eat. When we left the restaurant, Roderick spat gum at some moths that were flying around, and he hit Dad by accident. Dad chased Roderick around the parking lot, but Roderick is actually pretty fast. Dad couldn't catch him, and then he tripped over a curb and twisted his ankle. So Roderick had to drive Dad to the emergency room. When the doctor asked Dad how he got hurt on his ankle, Dad said he wasn't looking where he was going, and he'd stepped on one of Manny's trucks in the driveway. I can kind of understand why Dad didn't want to tell the truth. One time I broke my wrist and I told everyone I broke it in a fist fight. What really happened was that I tried to stand up after my legs fell asleep from sitting on the toilet for too long, but I liked my version better. So it's only been a few days without mom. Things are already starting to fall apart. We've got one serious injury so far, and who knows what's in store down the road. We bought back leftovers from the spaghetti barn, and that's what we had for dinner tonight. Dad had to stay late at work, so he called Roderick and told him to warm up everyone's spaghetti in the microwave. Roderick gave me my plate first, and when he did, he said, "Careful, it's very hot." I blew on my spaghetti for a while to cool it down, but what I didn't know was that Roderick had never actually heated my spaghetti in the microwave. He just pretended to. When I bit into a meatball, it was ice cold. After that experience, I doubt I'll never be able to eat leftovers again. And the bad lunch thing isn't working out either. This week, Roderick was in charge of making lunches, and he wrote a note on my bag, just like Mom does. I didn't even bother eating the sandwich, since I've never seen Roderick wash his hands even once. My chore for the week is laundry, and I can't wait until my shift is over. For the record, I think it should be illegal for a boy to have to fold his mother's underwear. Friday. One of the big changes with mom to school is that now Dad's in charge of helping me with my homework. No offense to Dad, but Mom is way better at homework help than he is. When Mom helps me do my homework, he basically gives me all the answers, and I'm in and out in 10 minutes. It's a whole different story with Dad. He wants to teach me how to do the work. Plus, that's a lot more time consuming. Plus, it's been a long time since Dad was in school, so I have to sit there and wait while he reads my textbooks and gets caught up. But maths is worse. I guess the way they teach maths these days is totally different from the way they taught it when Dad was a kid. He gets frustrated with the new rules and starts trying to teach me the way he learned it. Dad also licks his finger and his thumb to make it easier for him to turn the pages. And when he does that, I try to keep track of which pages he turns so I don't touch his spit. But with all those numbers in my head, it doesn't leave a lot of room for math facts. I can tell when Dad gets kind of frustrated with me and breathes real heavy out of his nose. So I've learned to put a dish towel on my arm whenever we're working out on algebra. By the time it's over, 2 hours have gone by and it's time for me to go to bed. All I can say is I hope Mom wraps up her classes pretty soon because I'm the person who needs his TV time at night. Monday. This math thing is becoming a problem. We have standardized testing coming up at my school, and I heard that the teachers won't get their bonuses until we get good scores. So there's a lot of pressure on us kids, which kind of stings. I remember back in kindergarten, math used to be really fun. Miss Malroy says that if we don't do well on the test, we'll lose our budget and music class will turn into detention or something like that. But I don't think these kids are really getting the message. A few weeks ago, we had a math quiz and Miss Malroy said it was open notebook, which meant we could use our notes and textbooks to help us out. Then she left the classroom to take care of something, and the second she stepped out of the door, it was total chaos. Practically everybody failed the quiz because they were using their notebook paper as ammunition. So based on that episode, I don't think Miss Malroy had better make any big plans for how she's gonna spend her bonus. October, Tuesday. Tonight Dad walked up to me while I was sitting on the couch, and he seemed bent out of shape about something. He wanted to know why I didn't take out the recycling bin this morning like he asked me to. I told him he must be confused because he never said anything to me about the recycling. But he said he asked me to do it last night while I was playing video games. And to be honest with you, that did seem a little familiar. If I did forget, it wasn't my fault. I actually have a really great system for remembering things. You know how some people leave notes for themselves when they need to remember something? Well, I think that's a lot of work and it's a waste of paper too. Let's say I'm in bed and Mom walks into my room and tells me I have to bring permission slip to school in the morning. I don't get out of bed and write a note. I just throw one of my pillows across the room. Then, when I wake up in the morning and go to walk out the door, I see the pillow and think, hey, what's the pillow doing here? Then I remember, oh yeah, I have to bring a permission slip to school. See what I mean? It's totally foolproof. Now that I think of it, I did give myself a reminder to take care of the recycling. I specifically remembering putting my socks on the TV before I went to bed to remind myself in the morning. And if Dad did something to mess up my system, he's got only himself to blame. But Dad wouldn't let it go. He said now that I'm getting older and I start need to being more responsible. I heard this sort of thing from Dad before the last few weeks this summer. Our neighborhood Miss Grove hired me to take care of her plants while she was on a business trip. Well, I did it very good for the first few days, and then I guess you could say I got busy with the other things. When Dad asked me how the plants were doing, I realized I hadn't been over there in at least a week. I went to grab Miss Grove's key so I could water her plants, but the key wasn't in its usual spot. I practically turned our house upside down looking for that key, but I couldn't find it. It turns out the reason we couldn't find the key was because it wasn't in our house. I'd left it at Miss Grove's, and she found it when she got back from her trip. Miss Grove was pretty mad that her key was in the front door, but the way I see it, she should have been happy nobody robbed her house. She was mad about her plants too, because unfortunately most of them didn't make it, and I suggested that maybe she should buy a cactus or another plant that doesn't need a lot of water to survive. That way everything would be fine and next time she went on a business trip. But Miss Grove said she wouldn't hire me even if her life depended on it. He sent me home without paying, which stinks because I really did spend a lot of time looking for that key. Anyway, I think that episode is still fresh in Dad's mind, and that's why I'm hearing this responsibility thing again. Hopefully, Dad will leave my socks on the television next time around and things won't get to this point. Well, Dad is really serious about me talking on more responsibility, and the first thing he wants me to do is to start waking myself up in the morning. That's actually a real problem because I depend on him to wake me up. That's the way we've been doing it for years, and I really don't see any reason to change things now. Dad said that if I don't learn to wake myself up with an alarm clock, then I'm not going to know how to do it when I go off to college. But I always figured that we would be the way me and Dad would stay in touch. Yesterday was the first day I tried to wake myself up, and it didn't work out so well. My alarm went off and on, but the sound just worked its way into my dream. And today didn't go any better. I set my alarm to radio and tuned it into a classical music station because I didn't want to hear that annoying beep thing in the morning. But the music didn't wake me up either. The problem is, without an actual human being waking me up, my brain is always gonna find some excuse to keep sleeping, and I think that I might have figured out the solution to this alarm clock situation. I found one of those old style wind up clocks in the storage room today, and those clocks make a huge racket when they go off. I tested it out to see if it still worked, and sure enough it did. I don't think anyone could sleep through with a noise like that. The only problem is that the clock doesn't have a snooze bar. If I'm worried, I'll shut it off and fall back asleep. So tonight I hid the clock under my bed. This way when the alarm goes off, I have to get up and find the clock. And then I'll bet I'll be up for the day. It turns Friday. It turns out the new alarm clock caused a new problem. With that wind-up clock ticking under my bed, it felt like I was sleeping on top of a bomb that was about to go off. The stress kept me awake half the night. I walked through my day at school, which was fine until we had an assembly. We were lined up to go into the auditorium, and I was leaning against the wall. But I must have fallen asleep for half a second because my hand slipped and I accidentally set off my fire alarm. The whole school had to evacuate, and 3 minutes later, there were a bunch of fire trucks out front. After they found out there was no fire, they let everyone back into the school. The principal got on the loudspeaker and said whoever set off the alarm was going to be suspended and that they should turn themselves in. I don't know much. What I do know is that you shouldn't announce what the punishment is going to be before you ask people to turn themselves in. So I decided it would be smart to keep quiet and let this all blow over. After the third period, a rumor started going around the school that the fire alarm squirts out invisible liquid when you pull the handle, and that the teachers had some sort of special X-ray wand and they could use it to see the liquid on somebody's hand. Or it was only a matter of time before they found the culprit. Then everyone started wondering if it were the teachers who started the rumor, and it was just a trick to see which kid would go to the bathroom first to wash his hands. So that got everyone really paranoid. Nobody would go to the bathroom, even though people who actually needed to go decided just to hold it until the end of the day. The principal eventually had to shut this school down early because nobody was washing their hands and we're right in the middle of the flu season. Mom was off at the library studying, so I had to call Dad at work and ask him to come pick me up from school early, and he didn't seem too happy about it. But if he hadn't made me wake myself up, none of this would have even happened. Wednesday. They're starting a new unit in our health class called The Facts of Life, and apparently it covers all the stuff they've been dancing around for the past couple of months. They send permission slips home, and if you don't get your sign, you're not allowed to be in the classroom for the rest of the semester. I really don't like this permission slip thing. Mom only lets me watch G-rated movies, so I think there's no way she'll let me be in the class. To get around that problem, I typed up a fake note and taped it on top of the actual permission slip. Luckily, Mom didn't look at the paper too closely, and I got the signature I needed. I'm actually glad they're doing this Facts of Life minute because I have a lot of questions about this stuff and I don't have a reliable way of getting answers. Just about everything I know in this department comes from Albert Sandy. I'm starting to wonder if he's been feeding me bad information. Like last week he told at lunch table that it's medically impossible for a girl to fart. Well, I know that's not true because of the time Mom hugged Aunt Dorothy on Christmas Eve. Anyway, today was the first day of the Facts of Life unit, and sure enough, Nurse Powell sent the kids whose parents wouldn't sign their permission slips down to the library to be the special helpers for the day. The rest of us were pretty excited because we couldn't wait to hear all the juicy stuff Nurse Powell was about to tell us, but it didn't go the way I expected at all. Nurse Powell put some charts up on the easel and started talking about zygotes and chromosomes and a whole bunch of other scientific nonsense. I kept waiting for her to tell us this all was a big joke and then get into the good stuff, but it never happened. So I get this school is just trying to confuse us and make us lose interest. Anyway, if this school is trying to confuse us, they're doing a pretty good job. At lunch, we tried to explain what we learned in the Facts of Life unit to the kids who didn't get their permission slip signed, and we couldn't agree on a single thing. Another thing that's in charge of now that mom's back in school is taking us kids to our dentist appointments. Mom, most kids don't like going to the dentist, but I actually look forward to it. I've been going to the same dentist since I was 2 years old, and they're totally my type of operation. But the main thing I'm going because I'm totally I like the way the hygienist who works there, Rachel. Rachel always lectures me about brushing and flossing and all that. But she's so good that it's hard to take her seriously. Mom's always getting after me about flossing too. She says that if I don't take better care of my teeth, I'm gonna end up with dentures before I go to college. I've been thinking about that, and maybe false teeth wouldn't be such a bad thing. If I could have someone else take care of my teeth, I could spend the extra time doing something I actually enjoy. Only problem with being only problem is that you only get to see her every 6 months when you get your teeth cleaned. So I have to make the most of every visit. Last time I had an appointment, I was Rachel. Only I did no time to clean my teeth so she could see I was definitely interested. This morning I actually went out and bought some cologne to make an extra good impression. So when Dad told me to get in the car, I was ready. But Dad drove right past my dentist's office and got on the highway. I told him that he had misturned that Tenderhouse Dental Care was back the other way. But Dad said I'm too old to keep going to a kid's dentist. So starting today, he was switching me over to his dentist, Dr. Kagan. I got chill up my spine when he said that name. I have seen Dr. Kagan's billboards on the highway, and I get the impression he's totally a different approach than Tenderhouse. I tried to get Dad to change his mind, but he said he already did the paperwork to switch me over, and there was no turning back. I thought about making a run for it, but Dad must have known what I was thinking because he locked the doors. Dr. Kagan's office was even scarier than I pictured it. He didn't have any coloring books or toys or the kinds of things they have in the Tenderhouse waiting room. Dr. Kagan was waiting for me in his office, and his sharp metal instruments and drills were right out in the open for me to see when I walked in. So I could tell this guy wasn't fooling around. After I sat down in the chair, Dr. Gagnon started grilling me about my eating and drinking habits. He actually got mad when I told him I drink soda, and he went in the side room and brought out a jar filled with brown liquid that he had a rotten tooth in it. He told me that this is what happened to a real tooth when it was left in a jar of soda for 24 hours. I told Dr. Gagan I would make sure I never left my teeth in a jar of soda overnight, and I'm pretty sure he just thought I was being sarcastic because I was trying to show him that I was paying attention. And he cleaned my teeth. I started to panic because if there's one person you don't want to be mad at you, and it's the guy who got metal tools poking around in your mouth. At one point, Dr. Kagan started doing x-rays. Then he put a piece of plastic between my teeth and told me to bite down. Then he took an x-ray and got the next piece of plastic ready. After 2 or 3 x-rays, I started to get the hang of it. And so when Dr. Kagan did my molars, I bit down on the plastic before he even told me to. At first, I thought it was plastic, but it turns out it was actually Dr. Kagan's finger. Well, if he was mad before, it was nothing compared to this. Dr. Kagan told me to go out in the waiting room while he worked on my diagnosis. I was pretty sure he was going to come back and tell that I need to get a root canal or something. He could get even. Something to do so he could get even with him. But he did something worse. He told that I needed to take major corrective measures for my overbite, and he gave that this pamphlet. Dr. Kagan said that I would need to wear my headgear at all times, especially during the day when I'm at school. So he's obviously trying to ruin my school life. Monday. When I woke up this morning, I couldn't find my headgear where I left it, so I had to go to school without it. Not that I'm complaining or anything. In health class, Nurse Powell told us that we were going to be starting a new unit about parenting. She said that being a mother or father is a big responsibility, and that in this unit we were going to learn that taking care of a baby is no piece of cake. Then he took out a carton of eggs. She said each of us was going to take our egg home and return it to the class next day. And the rule was that we had to return our egg in perfect shape, with no cracks in it or anything. Now I don't know what a chicken egg has to do with a baby, but this is one of those situations that make me wonder if I'd be getting a better education if mom and dad switched me over to private school. Then Nurse Powell said this egg was going to count for 25% of our grade. Well, when Nurse Powell mentioned grades, I got really nervous. I'm already failing algebra, and I don't need to flunk out of health. 2. I knew I was going to have to keep my eggs tight. The other boys didn't seem too worried about their grades, judging by what happened after the class went out. I heard it took the janitor till all afternoon to scrub the yolks off the lockers. The only boy besides me who didn't break his egg right away was Rowley, who tucked it in his shirt pocket. I didn't have a shirt pocket or anywhere safe to put my egg, so I needed to figure out something quick. I ended up getting a huge wad of toilet paper from the bathroom and stuffing it into my backpack for cushioning. Then I had to make some of my books out so they wouldn't crush the egg. So I guess that means I won't be doing my history homework tonight. I'm nervous around the eggs anyway because of the incident that happened last year. My family got invited to the Snella's house for another of their kids' half-birthday parties. The Snellas had a table set up with all sorts of food, and most of it looked too fancy for me. But I knew Mom would think it was rude if I didn't put something on my plate. The only thing I could actually recognize were the deviled eggs, because I had seen them at Grandma's house a couple of times. I put about 10 of them on my plate. When I bit into one, I gagged. The devoured lizards of Noah's house didn't take anything the one that Grandma makes, and now I had a whole plate full of them. So I waited until no one was looking, and then I dumped all the devoured eggs in this plastic plant in the dining room. I got away with it, but after a few weeks later, Miss Snella told Mom that there was a really bad smell in their house and they couldn't figure out where it was coming from. At first, Mr. and Miss Snella thought the smell was coming from the carpet, so they hired a cleaner to come and shampoo the rug, but that didn't solve the problem. When they saw they may have a squirrel or a mouse died in their wall, so they had a carpenter to come and try find it. A few weeks later, I guess they couldn't take the smell anymore, so they moved out. And I have to admit, I felt a little bit guilty when I saw they were taking their plastic plant with them. Ever since I've been trying to figure out how to sneak some devoured eggs into Friendly's house. Okay, so we're in page 104 and that's